I'm Felicia Shakiba, and this is CPO Playbook, where we solve a business challenge in every episode. Founding partner at _VC claims that only 50% of founders remain CEOs after being in business for 3 years, 40% after 4, and a sadly low 25% of founders actually make it through their company's IPO as CEO. One of the greatest needs from an entrepreneur is to attract and retain talent, where founding team members and early hires become critical to the success of a startup. Anil Joshi is the founder and managing partner at Unicorn India Ventures, a leading venture capital fund focused on early-stage investments in tech companies. Anil has been at the helm of over 100 venture financing deals. He serves on the board of several companies in the field of fintech, robotic, meditech, and more. He is here to share his perspective on what it takes to start and sustain a successful startup as a founder. Anil, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you. Pleasure is mine.
When you're evaluating early stage founders, what are the key skills and qualities that you look for that you think will enable them to build a truly scalable business?
So we are early stage investor. We get into seed stage as a first institutional investor. And in most cases, these are first generation entrepreneur without any background. In some cases, these are just straight out of college, so not much to evaluate. So we have to rely more on entrepreneurial quality. So we look at team, compatibility of the team, how founders compatible each other. We generally avoid founders who carry same skill sets because then it's difficult to navigate business for different aspects of the business, because business is just not product development. It also involves building team. It also involves sales. It involves scaling up, expansion. So for us, the quality of founders is very important. And the only thing which we can evaluate at the early stage is founders background, what they've done in past, what kind of qualification they have, what kind of projects they have handled, and if they have worked, what kind of experience they have. This is one very important aspect for us while evaluating any opportunity which we look at for investment. Apart from that, we also try to look at the clarity of thoughts. What problem founders are solving? Is it just local problem or it's a universal problem? Then solution what they have built. Is it unique? Does they have any IP? Because if they have IP, then certainly it provides good moat for business, allow founders to build business without much competition. So IP is very important, which we lay a lot of emphasis. Apart from that, we also look at the execution capability of founding team. In most cases, the founding team is able to get started, have one, two, three customer. But when it comes to scaling, when it comes to building team, then I think that's the time when most of the founders find it difficult. So we look at their execution capabilities. We also look at the leadership quality of the founders. In many cases, we would have ventures which has two, three, four co-founders. Now, it's very important to identify who has CEO or leadership quality, because in any organization, opportunity, there can be only one leader. There cannot be multiple leaders because that results into chaotic situation. So we definitely look for who is the CEO, who is the one who can take the shot, who is the one who can lead the team. And last, not the least, we also evaluate whether the opportunity which we are going to invest would provide us exit or not. Because if we are stuck with investment, then though it might do good, but maybe a bad investment because we are unable to take exit. So these are the few of the qualities which we look at, apart from many more, but these are very important qualities for our evaluation for any opportunity we look at.
So I heard IP is important, the team's capabilities, and most of them might be coming out of grad school. So there's not much to go on, but Can they basically execute what you need them to execute? I also heard leadership, which I'm actually very curious about, because you said sometimes founders come together as a team, but it's really about, can we identify who is the CEO? And I feel like that can get a little bit muddy in the sense that maybe they don't know who is going to be CEO. Maybe they both or all three, however many there are, all want to be CEO. How do you get to identifying the CEO of the startup?
So it's not easy formula. It takes time. Been in this space for last 20 years, both me and my co-founder. And I think certain qualities you pick up with experience. But I'll share one very interesting example. This is from our second fund where we invested in a company, two co-founders, serial entrepreneurs. This was their third venture. Of course, the first two ventures didn't did well, but this was their third venture. And they come from reasonably premium institute from India. So they were ticking box for our investment. And while investing, we did check who would like to lead. And they were very clear that one of the co-founder would be CEO. And the business they were building in was enabling solo entrepreneur go online. So in many cases, you have seen that there are boutique ventures which are very local, very hyper local, and their market restriction becomes very small because they are very hyper local. So they thought, why not provide a platform where hyper local entrepreneurs can go global? And that's how they started. The business got very good traction, but unfortunately, they were unable to crack the revenue model. So while business was growing, but there was no revenue, almost negligible revenue. And business was just scaling and sucking the expenses for sustaining that business. And then they decided to pivot, and they used almost 7, 8, 9 months to come out with the second product, which was more B2B. Now if you look at the first business was more kind of B2 B2C, but the second business which they built on was more B2B, helping SaaS company, helping web applications, mobile applications company to have one click navigation. And here we were pleasantly surprised because the founder switched role. The second founder, who was not a CEO, now became a CEO, and CEO chose to be under his leadership. So I think these are the qualities which actually helps building great organization. We were very clear when we invested in, because in most cases, and I will also share one more very interesting example without naming the venture. We invested again, this is again example from our second fund where we invested in two co-founders come from premium institutes from India, and everything was tick in box for us to invest in. They also had their post graduation from premium institute, one left doctorate from one of the known university from US, came back to India, started this business. And we actually identified the leadership traits in the CEO, and we highlighted a couple of times to CEO that he need to step down and allow the second person to lead, because he was showing all leadership quality for the business they were building in. And in doing so, we lost almost 15 months. And ultimately, when we, as a board member, exercised our right, unfortunately, the CEO stepped down and left the company. Now, the company, which has two co-founders, is now left with only one founder. So these are the pitfalls. If we are not able to make good decision at the time of investment, we carry this one risk, all in all investment, where founders stepping down and say they don't want to build in. As I said, these are early stage companies where everything is dependent on founding team. It's not that it's a stable business where you can bring in professionals, you pay them market salaries, and they take forward the business. No, that's not the case. So it's very important to identify these qualities. And honestly speaking, this only can come through experience. There is no magic sauce or there is no formula which you can apply. You cannot have a questionnaire. So I think it takes time. We are still learning, to be honest with you.
I would imagine that as leaders and founders grow, perhaps one founder might be a good fit as CEO in the beginning. And then perhaps that situation might change where a different founder might be good for moving forward after 6 to 12 months. So I could imagine the continuous calibration you might need to have in order to really understand who is the right fit for the right stage of the business. So I'm also curious to hear more about how you assess a founder's ability to attract and retain top talent as their company grows on the same thread. What are some of the things that you look for there?
When we evaluate or when we interact with founders, we try to evaluate whether they are able to sell their vision to us or not in very first place. Because if they are not able to convince us, it will be very difficult for them to build team. One more important aspect, what I would like to add here, as I said, that you may be good in getting started, but there may be challenges when you have to scale up. Are founders or the founding team willing to accept an external CEO or not? A very interesting case I would like to share, and I'll get back to your question about identifying those traits. We invested in a three co-founder company, first fund which we started in 2016, and the team was exceptional in execution. So if you give them tasks, they will give result, but when it going to next stage, none of them were capable. And it took almost a 6 month to make them understand that there's a need for external CEO. There's a need for professional who can not only scale up the venture but also help navigate them in their vision. And finally they agreed. It took us almost 5 6 months. Finally they agreed, so we got some expat who was working in Singapore, and he came in. Not only he helped raise more money for the company, but he also helped scale up the business. He was also instrumental. Of course, the founding team was equally contributing in all aspect of business. He not only helped scale, but he also helped us get the exit. So I think it's very important to understand the software aspects where people are willing to accept somebody else coming and leading them, whether they have clear leadership quality or not. So these are very softer aspect. So as a policy, we try to spend 2 3 months with the founding team, try to understand their qualities, how do they handle people, how do they behave with team, what kind of leadership quality they show. We also try to go out dinner with their family, what's their behavior when we are having dinner. Try to spend as much time as much possible so that we are able to pick up if there are any signals. So I don't believe that every person is perfect. So there would be some gray areas which we may need to work on. So the objective is to just identify which are the gray areas which we may need to work post investment. And that also allows us reasonable amount of time while founders are building venture, because the amount we normally invest is for 15 to 18 months, and that is the only time period available to us for make corrections if required, and also founders to come to a stage either the business is self-sustainable or they're able to raise more money. So we try to identify all gray areas or weaker points which we need to work on, and I think with experience we have gained some insights doing that.
So you're really looking at the entire person and not just them as founders, but as family members, as someone who you go to dinner with, as who they are with people outside of their business, and really try and find those themes. And it sounds like you are forgiving because, like you said, not everyone's perfect, which I really do appreciate you saying. And so, on that thread, in your experience, what are the common gaps or weaknesses that you tend to see in founders' skill sets? And how do you work with them to help address those gaps?
So entrepreneurship is very lonely journey. That's the reason we prefer having at least two founders or three co-founders. And the journey is very stressful. In many cases, founders may not be comfortable sharing stressful situation with their family because they don't want to give stress to their family members. And hence it is very important that we become a sounding board for them so that they can vent out, because all our investments are dependent on founding team. I've seen a very interesting case where We could have found buyer for the business, but the founding team gave up. They didn't had the strength to continue for another 3 months in difficult time, because if you're running out of resources, you don't have money to pay rent, you don't have money to pay salary, you don't have money to pay electricity bill. And if you're talking about 90 days or 3 months, which is a good 90 day, every day is a very tough day for a founder. So we try to see how strong founders are, what kind of help they may need. In many cases, we even have helped and have gone out of way to provide some extra funding, so that once stress is taken out, they can focus more on business. In many cases, we have seen founders are unable to attract good talent. This also becomes a point which is very important for growth of the business, and we have to chip in to help get person on board, give them that confidence that why this venture, why this founding team, and why they are important for the business. So we try to identify areas. So if you recollect, I spoke about one of the portfolio company from Fund One, where three co-founders very good in execution, but realized that it would be difficult for them to accept external CEO. And we then started mentoring them. We started making them understand why it is important. And if they don't do it, they would reach to a dead end, and then business will go nowhere. Because we started early, the team did realized after a few months, and then to my surprise, they themselves came to us and said, yes, we need to have an external CEO, can you help us? So we try to identify, Felicia, the weaker points which we need to work on. In many cases, you would see that almost 99% cases, the founders are very technical. They come from technical background and they're good in numbers. When it comes to finance, when you have to understand cash flow, when you have to understand the revenue cycles, it becomes difficult for people to sometimes manage business from that perspective. So we try to help them seek necessary help. In many cases, we have extended our CFO to help them navigate tougher times. So the initial interaction when we are evaluating business, we try to understand what are the weaker areas which we need to work on, because the business solution what they're working on, they're solved. They are the best team who are doing it, and that's the reason we invest in them. But we also try to identify the areas where they would need some help. We try to work on them while we have invested in those companies.
So, when you think about those soft skills that they might need to be successful in the stage of company that they're at, what would be the top two or three soft skills?
I think one is leadership, because when they start, they are maybe two, three, four, five, six, seven. It's easy to manage that kind of team, but if you have to build team which probably is 200, 300, then you definitely need to have leadership quality. So that's one aspect, their ability to delegate, their ability to replicate themselves. That's one. The second quality, which is very important for any organization, is to build team. Are they able to attract leaders for their own verticals? Are they are able to train them? Are they able to delegate the responsibilities and see how business can, be scaled up? I think these are the two quality which will matter for all businesses: ability to lead from front and also to build team. I have a very interesting example. One of my very old investment, which I did it even before I started this fund, when I was heading Mumbai Angels, which is a leading angel group in India. And here, founder was actually very high profile CXO, had very fancy vehicles, very good house. When you're building a business, it's not easy. Every day is not good. And time came in where he had to sell his house, he has to sell his cars, so that he could manage, run his business, he could pay employees salary. I even remember he didn't had money to pay the rent for bigger office, so worked out of smaller office. And he was a born leader. He was able to motivate team, which actually worked for a couple of months out of staircase. I don't think any founder would be able to motivate a team to that extent, where people work out of staircase, they are not paid, and then still they are building world class product. So these are some special qualities which every founder need to have it, because journey is not simple, journey is not same. You will have tough time, and you need to keep your team intact. If team is there, you can build business.
I'd have to agree with you. I think when you have a great team and you have a poor product, a great team can always help fix the product, right? But a great product can't always fix a poor performing team. So I hear you on that. Can you share a specific example of a founder who you've worked with who was really able to successfully scale their business? And what do you think were the key factors that enabled their success?
So I'll share one very interesting case study. This is from our fund one. It's a company called Gen Robotic, and there are four co-founders who started this business, and we invested in this company when it was almost at a prototype stage. And to give you a background, I was literally forced to meet this team, which I was not keen after hearing some background, but they said will not regret. And I respected gentleman's judgment. And I went, I said, I'm only going for 10 minutes. And they took me to one small office, which was in basement. Office was something size of 8 by 8, very small, even hardly 8 people can stand. And when I entered the room, there were 6 boys standing, and there was one model which was dangling from roof. And I said, what is this? And then the founder started. And if you can imagine that the prototype which was hanging from wall was mix of plywood, cardboard, chains, and I had no idea what it was. And then founders started with all their passion, right? You asked me, how do you make a decision whether team is capable or not? And the passion, what these boys, hardly an year experience straight out of college, they were provided a very small, less than 10,000 grant from state government, and they worked on this prototype. And the founder started with his pitch. He knew that I'm there only for 10 minutes, and they were basically building a robot which was eliminating human intervention for cleaning manhole. And world over, it's banned to have human intervention for cleaning manhole because one, it's very toxic. Many people have lost their life, and that actually caught my attention. I said, what they're doing? Because if your manhole is clogged, the only way to unclog is to have human intervention. And they said, we are trying to build something, a robot which will function like a human and will eliminate human intervention for clogging. They said they're building something which will eliminate human intervention. And I said, where are you in terms of your business? They said, this is what it is you're seeing in front of your eyes, something hanging from wall. And I said, this business is certainly not fundable because it's still at a prototype stage. But I said, the least I can do for this team is to invest an amount which help them converting this prototype to actual product. And wrote a very small check. I think it was less than $100,000. Team of 4 founders and 2 interns. And then we agreed to invest this small check. And listening the story, couple of very known prominent angels from India also joined us. They said, Anil, if you're doing it, we'll also join you in this. And they also wrote a very small check, sub 10,000 type, because they were not willing to take anything more and nothing less. So we invested less than $100,000. And fast forward almost 6 years, you would be happy to know that they have one of the best R&D setup with a team of around 65 people. The total team strength is close to 400 people. They had been profitable since they went in production. Not a single year they haven't shown any loss. It's been continuously growing. I don't think they had to reach out to investors. Investors actually came in and kept investing. The last round, which is almost $10 million, they haven't pitched anyone. They haven't engaged investment banker. I think what mattered in this one investment was a passion and their ability to demonstrate technically to solve a problem using technology. They have not only deployed their solution in India, but they have also done in several other countries. Since it's a robotic company, they kept on building solutions wherever human had difficulty in solving it. So recently they have built a robot which is helping issue rehabilitate having mobility issue. People fracture the leg, they go into accident, and it takes time to rehabilitate. They find it difficult to walk, and using AI, using machine learning, using robotic, using computer vision, they have built a robot which helps in speed up the rehabilitation process for people having mobility issues. So very exceptional company. I think this company will go IPO in 3 years' time, max 4 years' time. So it's a very unique case where we invested when there was no team, there was no product, and in 6 years' time, they have grown from a team of 6 people or 4 people to 400 people. Exceptional entrepreneurial quality, exceptional leadership quality, exceptional delegation example, very exceptional team.
Wow, that's an amazing story. I think it's a fantastic problem to solve. I'm sure everyone would agree. But it sounds like the passion came through the ability to execute and then problem solve, or maybe like in the top three of everything that you've shared so far. Leadership certainly is the most important capability in order to scale, right? The leadership qualities of building a team and delegating. Did I miss anything?
Exceptional team. I don't know the energy they bring on table. It's a very difficult product. I said normally VC will not invest in. The business segment they're catering is not easy to do a business. And they have never even had any bad debt also. I think it's a complete package. So leadership, human relationship, futuristic vision, team of this size. Not seen any startup having a team of 60 people in R&D, right? So it's a true example of global company in making.
Exactly. Yes. And I think I've noticed that. I feel like R&D having that extensive portion of the business and R&D I think is really important. Yeah. I've been seeing that lately actually. How do you advise founders to find that right balance between leveraging their deep technical expertise and also developing critical business and leadership skills?
Oh, very interesting. I have several examples where I know one case where we had invested almost $1 million, and maybe close to $2 million, and the founder had built close to 200 products, but not a single product was commercialized, and the entire investment went down the tube. So I always tell founders that don't go away from your focus. Right? If you have thought of building something, stay focused on that and see if it is making commercial sense or not. Because business has been started to do a business and not to do charity or not to just build product for your wishful thought. The business has to make business sense, and if product is not getting translated into revenue, then there is something wrong with it. Either customer or consumer not liking it, or they don't want it. I always suggest founders build something which people need, build something which people are willing to pay for, and don't do something which you want to do and consumer don't want. Stay focused, keep correcting things every 3 4 weeks so that you don't run out of resources, because I've seen companies dying not because, as you rightly said, a good product cannot navigate poor team. So if you keep doing course correction at regular interval, stay focused, I think you'll not go wrong. And that's what I think stand true for this company, Gen Robotic, because I spoke about what I saw when we invested in a prototype hanging from wall. But if you look at today, it may be version 6 or version 7 which they work. So they continuously keep innovating what consumer asking for. And that's the reason they have a team of 60 people in R&D. It's not because R&D is most expensive department. It's a cost, right? But this cost translates into revenue if it is solving consumer problem. So one piece of advice to any entrepreneur anywhere in the world: stay focused, keep doing course correction. If your product is not translating into revenue, I think it needs revision or it needs correction. Stay focused.
Well, that's great advice. I would assume so. And we're wrapping our episode up here, but is there anything else that you feel is important for our listeners to know other than what you've shared so far?
Today, if you look at, entrepreneurship is not difficult. When I graduated, I couldn't even have thought of being an entrepreneur because resources were not available. Today, be it India or any other country, I think every single government is focused on startup. The ecosystem is there for everyone to get started. So if you have an idea, don't hesitate, give a try. There are forces which will certainly help you. And if you're getting started, start with an objective to build something which solves a problem, which translates into commerce. Stay focused. If need be, delegate. If need be, bring somebody who could help expanding. Be flexible. An entrepreneurship is all about flexibility. It's not being a rigid. I've seen businesses going down. So be flexible, stay focused. Best time to get started anywhere in the world.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Anil. This has been fantastic.
Thank you.
That's Anil Joshi, founder and managing partner at Unicorn India Ventures. If today's episode captured your interest, please consider sharing it with a friend or visit cpoplaybook.com to read the episode or learn more about leadership and talent management. We greatly appreciate your rating, review, and support as a subscriber. I'm Felicia Shakiba. See you next Wednesday, and thanks for listening.